from the oldest city in the USA, St. Augustine Tonight, with our guests, Scott Gregg, Armindgeon, and musical guest, Chillula. And your host, Jorge Rivera.
Sugar's burning. Yeah. You know, my son is visiting from France. He stays with me for a little while. And so someone gave me the tip that Seagrove, up there on A1A, as you leave, when you come to Avenue A, if you turn to your left, well, to your right, I'm sorry, you go into this neighborhood called Seagrove, and that neighborhood seems to be the trick-or-treat place. There were hundreds of children, house by house, little toddlers. And so I took my son out there. I was dressed with my Russian officer suit, and he was dressed as Wolverine, and we came back with half a shopping bag of candy. Okay? Half a shopping bag of candy. And we quit at some point. We just had too much candy. We said, we're leaving. And so what some dentists are doing now in the country, I think about 2,000 dentists nationwide, are buying the candy back from the kids for $1 a pound and sending it to the troops, wherever they are, Afghanistan or somewhere in Iraq, or wherever they might be. And they spread this candy around to children in these very depressed and war-torn countries. And I think that's great. Everybody wins. The kids make $1 a pound. The soldiers have some candy. The kids have some candy. I think it's great. Today's November 1st. What does that mean? That means that Thanksgiving and Christmas are just around the corner. This is when it speeds up really quick. Suddenly you're there sitting with the family, hopefully not talking politics this Thanksgiving. You know, I mean, come on now. You want to have a nice digestion, yes? Yes, okay. So drink some more wine and let's not argue. It's one of those few times where we can really sit with the family and have a lovely time. So, and then before you know it, Christmas is there. If you want to get me a gift, I saw something really nice. I saw a robot that plays ping pong. Did you hear that? It was amazing. It's very big. It looks like a giant spider, and it hovers over the other half of the table. And so as you play, this robot keeps playing with you. Now, it cheats because what it does when it plays with you, it reads your body language. So the robot kind of starts learning what kind of motions you make and what kind of strike you're going to give with the ball. But the journalist that was playing with it got his booty kicked. This robot just it moves so fast, and it's very, very cool. So, hey, think about me on Christmas time. I'd love to have a robot to play ping pong with. On sad side of news, New York, as you know, was another terror attack. Sadly, a lot of those who were victims were foreigners. I think most of them were from Argentina. And they had come for the trip of their lives to New York, and sadly, they lost their lives. I think there was someone also out of Belgium. So it is a tough world we live in, and things happen like that, and so our prayers and our thoughts are, once again, with the city of New York, and with these people from Argentina and Belgium who paid a terrible price. So it's sad, but we hope for the best for the families. On the other side, India now has the largest solar farm in the world. It is 10 square kilometers of solar panels. Amazing. The aerials of that just leave you just, oh my God, where are we going with this? They can power about 250,000 homes with what they do there. And because it's so big, when one side is cloudy, the other side, which is still in the sun, can still keep the energy going. It's amazing. Where in India, I couldn't tell you. My Indian is not that good. And last but not least, in South Africa, they just gave a public test of the first supersonic car. It is a car, they lay in these flats. They hope that when they
do the real race, it will reach 1,000 miles per hour. Figure a commercial jet goes about 600 miles an hour. This thing will go 1,000 miles an hour on that desert. And I saw the test last night, and I was like, wow, this thing just went boom, boom, these rockets on it, and it just took off in these flatlands in South Africa. But our show isn't flat tonight. No. We have our guest for tonight. We have Mr. Scott Gregg from the St Augustine Orchestra. We have Neil Armindgeon from the Matanzas River Keeper. And our musical guest is Chase Reitman, who is the man behind this group that is shaking the town called Chillula, and he will play for us. So when we come back after these messages, we're going to have Mr. Chase himself entertain us with a lovely tune on his guitar. So we'll be back real soon.
Our ingredients are mostly natural. It's palm oil, coconut oil, olive oil. We put cocoa butter, shea butter, and real silk in our soaps. Also, it's something that's pleasing to the eye and you enjoy using it. Come visit us at Antoinette's Bathhouse.
Get My name is Manny. I'm the owner of La Gerencia Cafe. We're located at 4 Avila Street, the oldest street in the oldest city in the nation. Our menu features breakfast all day and lunch. We have a variety of omelets, a variety of sandwiches, Cuban sandwich, medianoches, Elena Rue, pork sandwiches. We also have a feature item, it's called the Guajiro, which was featured in a PBS special. Some of our house specialties is ropa vieja, typical Cuban picadillo, and roasted pork with black beans and rice and plantain. Cuban coffee, Cuban espresso, café con leches, cortaditos. We have a selection of domestic and imported beers and a selection of wine. We also make our own mimosas and sangrias. So next time you're in St. Augustine, pass by the oldest street and come into La Gerencia and have good food, good friends, and a good time. And by the way, se habla español.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with Scott Gregg. Those are one of those names, if you're dyslexic like I will, we'll change it around.
It's
Greg
convenient.
Scott.
It's convenient that way. You really can't get it wrong.
I saw a movie where they gave the girl the name Hannah, and she asked why. Just because you could do it
Right.
backwards also.
And forwards, yes.
That's very interesting. I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Happy to be here.
I love your work, and for those who don't know Mr. Scott Gregg, he is the conductor and the musical director of the St. Augustine Orchestra. And they've brought us some wonderful, wonderful music. So you've been here in this area of Florida how long now?
Since 1995, so about 22 years.
Wow, wow. And when you think back of home, growing up, where you grew up, where would that be?
Oh, I'm sort of two places. I was born in Boston in the Northeast area, so I have one foot in the Northeast, but then I spent my teenage years in Dallas, Texas. So wow. I've got, they both canceled the accents out, so I've got a very middle of the road accent as a result.
That's interesting. So how old were you when you came to Dallas?
Let's see, I was 8 years old.
Oh, wow. So you did all your, and music, when did music come into your life?
When we moved to Texas, actually I take that back. Before we went to Texas, we lived in Northeast Virginia, and just south of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And Washington, D.C. in North Virginia, Fairfax County, had a fantastic schools program for music. And neither of my parents are musicians.
All right, that was another question I was going to ask.
So if it hadn't been for the school program that I got involved in, I would never have been a musician.
Wow.
And it's kind of a funny story. I originally wanted to play trumpet.
Trumpet.
And first of all, the band program and the strings program were separate programs, and I didn't know that when I walked through the door. So I walked through the strings program not quite knowing what I was getting myself into, and before I knew it, they had put a violin in my hand.
A violin.
And said, "Here, go work on this." And it was too late by then. Plus, I rode my bike to school, so double bass was clearly out. Cello was out.
Or tuba.
Tuba, anything big was out. Piccolo would have been perfect, but no, I wasn't in the right room.
So now you had the violin. Did you come to love the violin?
Yes.
Really like it?
You know, the first couple of years of playing violin are a nightmare for the player and for the people that have to listen to the violinist. It is absolutely horrid because it takes a long time to know how to make a decent sound on it. And that's why you get the stereotypical scratchy at the beginning level. But
with the violin, you feel like you almost have to contort your body.
It can be quite athletic, actually. You know, musicians who play string instruments, and actually musicians in general, are athletes in a sense because they have to use their bodies in somewhat unnatural ways. And especially with a string instrument, you have to really contort your body. So it's really important to stay limber, just as it is for an athlete, to play an instrument appropriately and to not get injury. And it's very easy to get injured as a musician.
Now, coming to injury, when we were talking, it seemed that you loved to practice.
Yeah.
That you just couldn't stop practicing. How many hours would you practice a day?
Oh, in high school, you know, I was playing all the time, but 4 hours a day was kind of minimum. But I got into trouble. I was heading for auditions for conservatory after high school. I wanted to make music my life. I also had a science side to me, and that still is part of me, but I was going along these two different tracks, and music was definitely part of my plan, and being a violinist professionally was part of my plan. And in order to gain access and entrance to a conservatory program, you need to take an audition. And to practice for this audition takes a lot of work to prepare it appropriately. And I practiced so much that I got a horrible case of tendinitis in my left wrist. And the only way
could you not play?
Well, the only way to get rid of that is to lay off it. And I had to lay off it for about 6 months.
Oh, that's
in the
death.
On the fall of my senior year, which was death, because that pretty much erased the next year for me. But there was a bit of a silver lining out of this. You know, while I was laying off of violin playing, the senior class at the end of the year had to put on a program for the school. It was like a Follies kind of thing. And we had this big idea. All the musicians, the geeks in the school were saying, oh, let's put an orchestra together and we're going to write music and we're going to put on a show. You know, get us a barn, let's put on a show. And they needed somebody to lead the musicians. And I wasn't, you know, doing anything, so I took up the baton. I was the conductor for this. And I didn't know what I was doing.
How old were you?
I was a senior in high school.
Oh, wow.
And it's true what they say, once bitten, you're infected. And so conducting sort of became part of my life from there. I eventually took up the violin back again.
Right.
And I still play to this day, and it's always been a major part of what I do.
Now here's a question for you. Do you think if you never got that injury, that probably you had not gone into conducting?
No.
Wow.
So my life is really a bunch of accidents, which led me here today.
Well, I'm an insurance agent. We're going to talk later.
It's true.
Wow.
But, you know, I did not go the conservatory route. I went the liberal arts college route. And all throughout my college career, I still played music. but I also had this science side, so I was very much into astronomy, and
Yes.
I minored in astrophysics.
God.
And Harvard College was where I went, back to the Northeast. Had a fantastic astrophysics department, still does, world leading. And I was also playing 4 nights a week in orchestras in rehearsal.
So that was almost.
And so I had a real dichotomy.
Yes,
I could
exactly.
either go be a musician, or I could spend my nights in an observatory with an eye to the telescope,
to the
right?
stars.
But the determining factor was the musicians always gave better parties, so that's where I was. That's where I ended up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, so, how far did you go in astrophysics? A
Only,
bachelor's?
only to the point where I had maybe half the credits for
Okay.
for a major.
Do you think there's a common denominator in music and
Absolutely.
astrophysics?
Absolutely. It's been scientifically studied, I don't know if proven, but certainly they've made headway toward seeing that the spatial reasoning skills that you need to master mathematics and science are very similar to those that you need to master music.
Oh, wow.
Because you need to be able to not only hold an equation in your head from beginning to end and how to solve it, but you need to hold a piece of music in your mind as well in its entirety in
Right.
order to.
Like holding all these pieces.
It's true, it's true. And you need to have a conception of where you want to go, but you have to have an idea of where you've been, where you are, and where you're going.
Which explains how Beethoven, even death, could still put music together in a way.
Well, as a musician, Beethoven was a very fine musician and composer before he went deaf.
Right.
He started to go deaf in mid-career.
Wow.
But that didn't stop his creativity. And he knew sort of the trade craft of writing music, and he sort of knew in his head what it was supposed to sound like. And so he was able to carry on obviously a very successful composing career. As a conductor and a musician, it suffered. People would tell him that, he would be conducting an orchestra and he's completely deaf and he wouldn't be able to hear anything. And the orchestra had ended and he's still going because he has not been paying attention. They have to tap him on his shoulder and tell him, it's over.
I know. Now you went with your music later to the Peabody.
Yeah, so after Harvard I went to Baltimore to the Peabody Institute.
Institute.
And for the conducting program.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so how did you end up in St. Augustine, of all places?
Well, I was in Baltimore, finished my degree, and was working toward a doctorate. And I had been contacted by a conductor in New York City by the name of Roger Nierenberg, who just happened to be the music director of the Jacksonville Symphony down in Florida. He was also working up in Connecticut, and they were looking for, the symphony was looking for somebody to come down and to grow their youth music program. And it was basically carte blanche. They had a very nascent program of about a year or two, about 50 kids involved in a youth orchestra, and they were trying to get some music into the schools as well. Back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, Jacksonville had a really thriving music program in the schools, but with the budget cuts, it all went out the window. So the symphony said, we're going to take up the mantle and try to recreate this. And Roger Nierenberg, I don't know if you were here in the 90s, the 80s and 90s when he was active in the area, but he was a fantastic communicator about music. And he was also a fantastic salesman because he sold me on coming down to Jacksonville, Florida from the Northeast to take over this program. And here I am 22 years later, having grown this program to 300 plus kids, and we had made some headways into putting music back into the schools. It was very influential in the curriculum push that is still ongoing. But very proud of what we've been able to do. But I had no intention of staying as long as I did in Jacksonville at first.
I know you said, well, I'll do this for a couple of years.
I'll do it for a couple of years, but then you fall
later.
in love with it because it is very exciting
And you
work.
connect with these young minds. which I think is so different.
You know, I
than
didn't think I
working with
would, and at first I thought, well, you know, I have the older kids, the high schoolers and the college kids, and I'll work with them. But the job also included working with 7-year-olds.
Oh.
And I had no experience working with 7-year-olds at all. And the first couple rehearsals, it was like, you know, you crack a joke and they're all looking at you like blank stares, which is, I found out was very common at the time, but you can't let it faze you. But eventually you warm up to it, and it's exciting.
And so how did you end up conducting now the St. Augustine Orchestra?
Oh, I've been conducting St. Augustine for about 1.5 years now. So I was, William McNeilan was the previous music director for the SAO. And he was stepping down at the end of 2015. And so throughout the year, they had one conductor per concert come out and try, do an audition, but it was like a 2-month audition because you worked with them on a weekly basis and then ended up in a concert. And from that process, I started as music director in 2016.
And how did you get the musicians for the St. Augustine Orchestra? Where did you pull them out from?
For the most part, they're volunteers.
Wow.
Local musicians. And that's not so atypical because if you don't become a musician professionally, you still have the love of making music. So non-professional musicians coming together is not so atypical. It happens all over the country. And we're lucky to have a very good one here in St. Augustine.
How many members do you have in this orchestra?
I think we have about 50 and
it's
growing.
Huge. I've seen you in the Leitner down there, and
well, the Leitner is
it's
one
small
thing.
place, but I mean, you guys.
It's an intimate setting. We'll say that. It's very nice. We love the Leitner, but it is intimate.
I love your deodorant. What is it? You know, it's just so great. But what I love of you guys is the eclectic mix of music, from beautiful soundtracks of movies to something very, very deep.
We try to mix it up. We try to mix it up because there's good music everywhere. It's not just Beethoven, but it's also John Williams and the music from Star Wars or Raiders of the Lost Ark. And we did a program, you probably saw it in May, of great movie and Broadway scores.
That was awesome.
And I love all good music. There's good music
the
everywhere.
Boston Pops, you know, they do that kind of thing. And so we're running out of time, so my last question for you, of all the composers that you've played with, which one do you think is the one that got you?
This is a very common question, and you would be, I'm going to disappoint you, because as a conductor you have to be in love with whatever you're performing at the time. If you're not convinced and convincing about the work that you're putting on, then the audience surely is not going to buy it. So my favorite composer is the composer I'm playing at the time. But I will say that Mahler is probably my secret passion.
He was what, from Bohemia?
Yes.
Yeah, Czech, Austrian,
right.
some mix like
currently
that.
the Czech
He's a little
area,
mix
Czech
from
Republic
in there.
Area.
Wow. What do you like about him?
He is a very complex character and personality, and it comes across in his music. He put so much of his life into his music, and it's well, if you don't know Mahler, go listen to Mahler.
Sixth Symphony, we'd say?
No. If you're a novice, start with the First Symphony.
All right, okay, and he'll grow on you.
And then end with the Eighth.
And I need you to have you back, because you are amazing, my friend.
Thank you.
What you do.
Thank you.
You bring beauty. You really bring beauty to this city. Thank you. When we come back, we'll come for our next guest, and stay tuned.
At St. Augustine Distillery, we're part of a new generation of American craft distillers. Family owned and operated, we are committed to making the best possible spirits using local agriculture. Our distillers make everything by hand, from mashing and blending to distilling and tasting each and every batch. We distill and bottle everything we sell, making sure that the spirits are just right before barreling and aging. Bottled by real people, we love showing our guests not only what we do, but why we do it. We're passionate about educating our guests to not only what goes into each bottle, but how to make the best possible cocktails. We love St. Augustine, and thanks to your purchases, we're able to give back to the community and help local organizations each and every day.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
St. Augustine Distillery, handmade with pride in the nation's oldest city.
At Martinez & Associates, we can help you with many things. Number one is income for life throughout your retirement, which is very important. Number two would be Medicare choices, which are very confusing. Number three is a legacy for your loved ones. And finally, keeping you independent throughout retirement. My name is Julie Martinez. Call this number. Y hablamos español.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with Neil Armindgeon. You know, you were telling me that that name comes from Alsace, from that part of
Yes.
France, and my son is visiting, and that's where his mother's from, and that's where he lives, in Alsace. So it's a small little world.
It is a small world.
For those who don't know Neil, Neil is, for me, he's one of those protectors, one of those people we don't give enough credit. He's the man behind the Matanzas River Keeper. And they, what do they do? What do they do?
Well, I like to tell people we're the river's voice. We protect and defend one of the most unique features of this community, which is the Matanzas River. So we're a citizens group who really try to educate the public about the importance of the river and also protect the river from its threat, from the threats.
Right. Now, how did you get into? I mean, where did you grow up? Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
That Alabama says it right there.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I spent the first half of my life there and became interested. My father was a businessman, and so it was kind of assumed that I was going to be a businessman. I had a friend who worked for an organization called U.S. Geological Survey, who did water resources, and he asked me one day, hey, we have an opening, would you be interested? And the two things I remember, Jorge, about the job interview, they said, are you afraid of heights, and can you swim? And I said no and yes. And so for 10 years, I worked doing data collection and measuring rivers and streams in Alabama, and eventually I came to Jacksonville for the first time in the early 80s.
Now, did you stay with the U.S. Geological people?
No, it was a great organization. The work was great. I was outside a lot, but became very frustrated. I always told people I was documenting the decline of the water resources of the southeastern United States, and decided, you know, I wanted to do something. USGS is a scientific organization, so they don't really involve themselves in policy. And I decided I wanted to do more than that, so I began to take classes then I think it was FCCJ, and eventually ended up in North Carolina, where I went to school at NC State and then got a master's degree at Duke.
No. You had told me you had met a woman who really changed your life.
Yes, I met a woman in Jacksonville, Maveen Betch. When I met her, it was Marveen Betch. I don't know if anybody remembers her and knew her. She was just this iconic figure, the beach lady. And she kind of tapped into, she had an incredible environmental ethic, and I became a good friend of hers and really drove her around for years. And she's encouraged me to become part of the solution, to speak out, you know, for the creatures that did not have a voice, and just always encouraged me. And so I remember she said, "You don't want to be a government man." So I took her at her word. And you know, when I went back to school, I knew I wanted to work for environmental organizations, and eventually that's what I did. And this is the 28th year I've been working with environmental groups.
Wow. What can you tell us about our Matanzas River? If you had to give us a report card, what would you say?
Well, first and foremost, it's one of Florida's healthiest river. One of our catchphrases is protecting Florida's last best river.
Wow.
It is incredibly historical. We're all here because of the Matanzas River. Ecologically speaking, it has an intact food web, meaning from the smallest organism up to the higher trophic levels, it's all right there. That's one reason that the Whitney Lab is where it is.
Okay.
We have one of only 3 oyster beds in this part of the state where you can...
And that's what I learned from you. You can't eat oysters from everywhere.
Right, there's only 3 places.
Wow.
And in St. Augustine, Salt Run, right near the lighthouse, is a small area. And then down where our office is, the Highway 206 bridge to the Flagler County line. You can harvest oysters and they're safe to eat. And the sad commentary, that's a very rare thing these days.
Wow.
And I always tell people, if you've been around St. Augustine any time, this time of year, it's always about oyster roast. You know, churches, clubs, families.
Right.
I had somebody ask me this past weekend, where can I get a sack of oysters for Thanksgiving?
Oh.
That's, people are always thinking that. And well, today at our office, I looked out the window and there were 2 people with 5-gallon buckets collecting. As a citizen, you can collect 5 gallons of oysters per day.
Okay.
So they were out on some oyster,
And those are safe to eat.
I think so, Jorge. With all the storms we've had, the beds. Yeah,
I love that. You know,
what I thought to myself is I was going to look. You know, there's a website the state puts out, and with all the weather we've had, the beds have been conditionally closed for probably close to a month.
Wow.
So with the things letting up, we may. I'm assuming those people check.
You know, I grew up watching, I remember that commercial when I was a boy. There'd be this Indian on a horse, and he'd look at the river, and he'd turn his face, and you'd see his tear. That commercial is so powerful that you still see it in your head today.
Right.
I mean, when you look at all these years of work in the environment, what's the saddest thing you've probably seen that kind of broke your heart?
Well, overall, I would say for most of both my government career and here, in most cases, the environment quality continues to go down. You know, I think 70% of the rivers in Florida don't meet their designated use, which is fishable, swimmable. It's safe to swim, and it's also safe for you and your family to eat the fish. Wow. And the population, there's many more of us now than there were, and it puts pressure on the reason we all want to be here, really, which is the incredible waters and lands that we have.
People just, most of the great cities are all near water, you know.
Right.
Even a lake, you know. Look at a place like Zurich or Lucerne in Europe. So here you are. Do you feel like you're, you know, I'm watching forest fires in Greenland. I'm like, oh my God. I'm watching the west part of Antarctica falling into the ocean. I see these storms, and I meet environmentalists and I ask them the question, and this is where they play politician. I ask them the question, is it too late? Did the fat lady sing already?
Right.
And they'll, well, you know, do you have cancer? Well, if we change your nutrition and we give you exercise, and they start giving me this whole, and I just want, is it too late or not? Well, I guess people ask you that question too.
Right. And the honest answer is we're close to approaching that point where I think there are already changes within the climate that are not going to be reversed.
Well, this week, CO2.
Right.
Highest ever.
Ever, right.
I'm like...
And, you know, that's that whole thing about 2 degrees Celsius. And, you know, one of the biggest threats to the Matanzas River is climate change and sea level rise.
Right.
And we see the impacts at our little office. I've been down here 4 years, and I can look out my window and see red mangroves, how they're moving further and further north, which is because we don't have those kind of cold snaps anymore, and they're able to reproduce. As the tides go up, they reach further back in. And so what I'm seeing is more mangroves, less salt marsh. But to answer your question, if we don't, and I'm not saying radically alter, I think if we make simple changes, each of us every day, we can slow what's going to happen. But, you know, I've been at this a long time, and I always tell people, one of our jobs is to sell hope to people, to say to people, we have something very special here, and with that ownership comes a responsibility.
Well, I lived in Hawaii for 4 years, and now in Hawaii, plastic bags are banned.
Right.
You know, and I think some other places are taking.
Right.
California is a big leader in this.
Right.
This kind, and look at the fires. Oh my
Right.
God.
Well, and you know, there are small things. There's a group of people, we're assisting them any way we can to see if we can do away with plastic bags in St. Augustine Beach. And that may seem like a very small thing until you drive around and realize how many thousands of plastic bags are in the environment.
They last a long time.
Right, they last longer than our lifetimes. Same way we focus on just sustainable living. We all have, there's water issues in Florida, there's real water issues in St. Johns County, where we're taking water out of the ground faster than nature is replenishing.
Yes, I remember meeting with the county commissioners, having something for First Coast, the other thing I do.
Right.
And they said and this was a couple of years ago, for the first time the water that they got from the aquifer was not enough to supply the people in the county.
Right.
And the county had like double its population in 10 years.
Right.
And it was like, we don't have enough water in the aquifer. And I was like, wow. And that was several years ago.
Right.
So the challenges, now are you guys linked with international
Yeah, we're a locally based organization. We're a program of a group of people called Friends of Matanzas, which has been around, Jen and I were talking today, over 20 years. The citizens who are concerned about mainly the southern part of the river, but we're also part of a larger organization called Water Keeper Alliance. It was started actually back in the late 80s, early 90s by a group of people who, for example, a shell fisherman in Long Island, a biologist in New York City, someone in San Francisco Bay who kind of adopted this term river keeper or keeper. The first program was in the Hudson.
Yes.
And the term keeper is something that kind of came from medieval times where there was a person who overlooked the resources that belonged to everybody. And so from that kind of humble beginning, this group of people along the Hudson, which is the river that really fed this country when we were first starting, said it's no longer acceptable to let people destroy our river, that we have ownership. They adopted this term river keeper. It kind of spread. Today there are over 320 organizations.
Wow.
We were licensed in late 2003. I began in 2004. And so we're part, I tell people, St. Augustine, Crescent Beach, we're part of an international movement of citizens who are doing what they can to protect a body of water.
Because I found out a couple of years ago, and I didn't know that New York City, all its raw sewage went right into the river until about 1986.
Right.
All those toilets were going right into the Hudson River.
Right.
New York City.
Right.
And I was listening to how that started changing, and then how they started then creating these plants to collect all that, and they turned it into fertilizer.
Right.
And then no one wanted to buy fertilizer from New York.
That's
They had to hire these guys to go through the country to convince farmers. We don't want anything from New York. It's fertilizer, man. And now it's a huge market for
and the Hudson is a success story. It was terribly polluted.
Yes.
Large corporations, chromium, there was a paint factory that just
Paper mills.
and you know, the Hudson is also the drinking water supply. So
oh my
you know, it's really, we all have the ability to do better. That's what I tell people.
Well, I thank you so much for coming
Thank you,
here.
Jorge. Thanks
God
very
bless
much.
you for the work
Thank
you
you.
do, my brother.
Thank you.
It is
Thank you
warriors
very much.
like you that keep us alive. I
Thank
mean
you.
it.
Thanks
I
very
mean
much.
alive. Yes. When we come back, we're going to talk to Chase Reitman of Chillula. Thank you again.
Thanks, Jorge.
Hi, I'm Carla Wagner. I am the owner of what we call in the hood the Triple C's, and that stands for the Corazon Cinema and Cafe, here located at 36 Granada Street.
And how many theaters you got in that lovely place?
Oh, you haven't been to the Corazon? You need to come on out and see. Come on out. This is one, and this is Theater 2. Last but not least, Theater 3.
So, what kind of movies do you run here?
Oh, we have a variety of different movies. We have classical, foreign, documentaries, you name it, we carry it. We're an art house, so we have a lot of different movies.
That's right, you're an art house. Well, I gotta say, I like the way Triple C rolls. Yeah, that's Chaplin, love him.
So, you can come here to socialize, you can come here for a great film, or you can come here and have a bite to eat too. So come and see us.
Salud.
Salud.
I like this place.
Oh, and by the way, we have a value commodity, and that's lots of parking.
Hi, my name's Dana. I own Sweet City Cupcakes, and we're located at 233 West King Street. We specialize in custom cakes and cupcakes. We use fresh and local ingredients and bake fresh daily. Each of our cupcakes is decorated with a unique look to complement the flavor. We have signature cupcakes such as the Marilyn, the Elvis, the I Love Lucy. We have a unique vintage look. Stop in and say hello. Have a cup of coffee and a delicious cupcake. Even better yet, take the box home to share with the family.
Hello, I'm Grant Paxton. Welcome to Foxtrot Creative Studio. Let me show you what we do.
We've been in business for 3 years now. We can create different graphics for you, ads, mailers, flyers, business cards, logos, and even websites. And we're also a printing company as well. So we can create for you the design you need and then the final product. We can usually get you with a design, we can get you a brand new business card in less than 2 days.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. And we're back with Chase Reitman. And for those who don't know him, he's one of the, he's the man behind a band that's really popular. It is called the Chillula. It's on his hat, Chillula. Now, where did you get the name Chillula?
That's probably the number one question that people ask.
Yeah, it is a wonderful name. I love it.
It's kind of a made-up word to the way we have it set, but at the time we had a show booked. Our buddy booked a show for us, and we didn't have a name yet. We only had 5 songs too, so we had to come up with a name, and we only had like a couple days to come up with it. And at the time, our bass player and myself, we were just eating a lot of frozen burritos, and with the Chillula hot sauce. It's the one with the little wooden cap on it. So Chillula hot sauce. Start sending us stuff, please. I'm waiting.
Yeah. So you changed the spelling on it a little bit?
Yeah. I guess eventually, just in case they came back with something.
In case you're real.
In case they try to take back our hot sauce.
That's
so we changed spelling.
Interesting. Yeah. Now, where did you grow up, Chase? Where did you grow up?
Florida. I was one of the few people actually born in Florida that live in Florida.
Oh.
And Vero Beach, and then I lived in Jacksonville for a while, and now St. Augustine is my home.
Is your home. Mm-hmm. Now, your band, how big can your band be?
I
mean, you're
guess
playing
it could, yeah,
today, but your band could be as many as how many?
We could have 9 people. Wow. That's why I advertise for people. I think the most we've actually played out is 8.
Wow.
And because there's so much going on at one time, besides orchestras obviously, but that you know, it's good to keep it.
Everywhere
keep it
I go, people say, "Oh, Chillula, it's great." I mean, you're like what, an eclectic mix of music?
Yeah. We kind of mix a lot of different stuff together, and because we like a lot of different styles of music, you know, even within the band. So you know, we like funk and hip hop and dance and groove and R&B and jazz and reggae. So we try to blend all of that together.
And your instrument, but what we saw you playing that solo piece that was lovely, is guitar.
Yes.
And how did you end up with the guitar? I mean, is that the instrument you really wanted to go for?
I kind of took it from my sister. I borrowed it, you know. She started playing before I did.
Okay.
I think she was about 13 years old, and she was playing guitar. And then I just loved it. I loved the sound of it, and started playing it. And eventually I was playing it more than she was, so I just took it into my room. And then I kept playing. She didn't mind, so you know, it wasn't like I wasn't taking anything from you, Chelsea.
Okay.
But
if she's seeing this, he did not steal the guitar.
No.
Okay. All right.
I just loved it.
All right. Now, were your parents musical, mom and dad?
A little bit. I wish I would have. I wish when my parents were my age that there was so much video and documentation of everything.
Right. Like now we document everything.
So I really don't. I don't know if they were any good at playing music, but my dad played organ and my mom played guitar and sang. And I still have not seen them play. I think my mom's played like 1 or 2 chords for me, and that's kind of as far as it went.
Are they fans?
I hope so.
Yeah.
They're a fan of me, so I guess.
Oh, okay. The son.
Yeah. I don't think they care what kind of music I play. They just want me to.
Now, what kind of music did you like when you were a teenager? Where did you gravitate? What were some of the artists?
I mean, when because my mom, she was an aerobics instructor.
Okay.
So there was a lot of dance music going on. So I'm very influenced by dance. And you know, I remember us having she had tons of music all the time. So I'd always hear new music. And you know, she had record players in the living room that we'd listen to, and especially like the Thriller album.
Oh, Michael Jackson's Thriller album.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
I remember listening to that
in vinyl.
Yeah, in vinyl. Listening to that when I was a kid and dancing. I remember dancing in my socks on the carpet to the whole Thriller album.
Wow.
So that's one of my biggest influences. A lot of dance music, and I love rock music too. So
now you guys play just in Florida. You guys actually step out now and play in other places.
Yeah, we get to travel, thankfully. So
wow.
And I mean, obviously the majority of our gigs are here in North Florida, kind of half and half in St. Augustine and Jacksonville. But we also get booked to play, all over the United States.
You told me you were headed out to, in a couple of days, you're headed out?
Well, now it's, tomorrow morning I'm actually leaving for New Orleans. The band's going to play.
That's a music town right there.
Yeah, yes, that'll
New
be.
Orleans.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
You making a little vacation out of it too?
Yeah, I'm gonna hang out for a little bit. We got to go see the talent there. You know, I don't want to just play and be done. So.
Right.
So yeah, I want to see some other guys, and it'd be awesome if we could get on stage, and because we're bringing a couple horn players with us too. So yeah, it'd be cool. Maybe they'll get broke and go work on the street for a little bit out there.
So you're gonna have your full commando force with you.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, New Orleans. I loved it. I thought it was a really interesting. I did not like Bourbon Street.
No.
Bourbon Street was sticky.
Yeah.
And
you don't want to know why.
And I said to myself, what's the big deal? I mean, it reminded me of Times Square in the 70s when I was a kid. Okay, so I wasn't thrilled. But once you left Bourbon Street, oh wow, just beautiful. The streets and the little clubs and I remember my son had to use the bathroom and he really had to go, and I walked in a place and it was a bar where men dressed as women, and they ran into the bathroom to kick us out, and I was like, he has to use the toilet. I'm sorry. You can't be in here. You can't be here. We're not going to do any show. We're going to leave. So, but it's a great town.
Yeah, it's
food.
Fun. Yes, it's some of the best food.
I envy you.
I love St. Augustine, but I think New Orleans has St. Augustine beat for food.
Wow. Where's the farthest place you've played?
Probably Minneapolis.
Wow, that's Prince.
Yeah, we drove right by.
Oh wow.
We could. The club wasn't open when we drove by, but we definitely had to go stop by and see all the all the faces on the side of the wall. out there. So yeah, that was really cool. I wish, could have gone up there and played Purple Rain, but
is that
didn't
what?
get to.
So here, I hit musicians with my my question. If you're on an island and you can only listen to one song that would not drive you crazy, what do you think that'd be?
That'd be tough. I actually, if I was on an island, I probably wouldn't want to hear anything with words, actually.
Instrumental?
Yeah, I think it would just have to be just something like nice and soothing. If I was
Something like
I'd be by myself.
Coltrane,
Would I be by
or-
myself? Or,
Right.
If I don't know. I don't know what would not make me go insane then. If I was on an island by myself, I don't know if just hearing music would be enough. Maybe actually, so I'd at least have to be able to do a beat, because I'm sure there's things I could beat on. if I
Well,
was
yeah, there'll be
stuck on
palm
an
trees.
island.
I guarantee there are palm trees and
Right.
coconuts.
Yeah, so I could beat on some coconuts. So maybe I'll play the drums to some kind of music. So maybe something without drums. So then I can practice my
You
drumming.
could fill in the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Where do you see Chillula in the future? When you look at this band that's becoming so popular, you're starting to step out. You write music too, don't you?
Yeah, I mean the songs we're doing today is
It's all you?
Is stuff we're doing. It's recent stuff. We
Right.
wrote a lot of music in the past, and we're getting new band members, and so we're trying to kind of
Trying to get permanent band members?
get the same guys. So now we wanted to kind of all write together. In the past, it's mostly just been me writing everything.
Right. Right.
So I wanted to write as a whole group and try to get collectively, every song, so
Right.
it sounds.
How long
different.
has Chillula been around now?
I think it's almost 8 years.
Wow.
7.5. Something like
Wow, wow. And so, do you guys have a CD or any vinyl out yet?
that. It's coming soon.
It's coming soon?
So that's why I got the songs.
I'd
and
love
I'm
to get an album.
Still memorizing my lyrics and my.
Uh-huh.
So it is. We're gonna record pretty soon.
Now, how do you write a song for you? Does it just get up and have coffee and suddenly comes in? Is it something else you hear? How do the mental mechanics work for you?
I think it's kind of like a trial and error thing. Like if I have time, I'll sit down and just try to write stuff, and sometimes something good comes out, and 90% of the time it's just stuff. And if anything comes good, we record it, and then we try to build on that, and eventually we're like, oh, I got a part that would sound really cool with this idea that we already had. So then we'll just kind of, it builds up. So we kind of go part by part, like, oh, here's a chorus that I like, or here's a verse that I like, and eventually it just all pieces together. Yeah.
Now, you told me you had drums in your house.
Yeah.
And you said that would be the other instrument that you'd really like to spend time with.
Yeah, I would have probably been an awesome drummer by now.
Yeah?
I want to, at least like the earliest I can remember, it was probably like maybe 5 or 6 wanting to be a drummer.
Now,
So,
you have a little girl.
Yeah.
And how old is she?
She's 3.
Is she hanging around those drums?
Yeah. I don't know which one she likes more, guitar, or because I'm always playing guitar. But then she goes upstairs and she just plays drums on her own.
Wow.
Like just I don't know, if I'll be watching TV or whatever it is that I want to do quietly, and then and then
Well, that's the time children are, when they're young like that, they're just these sponges, man. They can learn 4 languages at the same time. They can really do incredible stuff. I sometimes like to watch these American Got Talent, and they'll have this young girl, this young boy, and oh my Lord, and you say, look at the talent and that soul that's been around the planet for probably 9 years. Look what he or she can do.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'll let her do whatever she wants to do, with music if she wants to.
Where will you be playing again here in St. Augustine? Do you know? In the future?
Yeah, I mean, well, we play every Thursday night. We have a gig at the bar with No Name.
Oh, the No Name bar.
Yeah, by the fort.
Yeah, right across the fort. Very popular.
So we're there every
place.
Thursday, and then we have pretty much every second Friday of the month. We're right over here at the San Sebastian Winery.
Okay.
Other than that, we kind of it's kind of different gigs here and there.
Yeah, Prohibition Kitchen or here or there.
But it's pretty much every weekend, we're like a Friday or Saturday.
We look on the internet, we'll find where you guys are playing.
Yeah.
All right. Would you play us something?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Gotcha.
When we come back, this is great. When we come back, Chillula will play us a little solo on the guitar.
Hi, my name's Dana. I own Sweet City Cupcakes, and we're located at 233 West King Street. We specialize in custom cakes and cupcakes. We use fresh and local ingredients and bake fresh daily. Each of our cupcakes is decorated with a unique look to complement the flavor. We have signature cupcakes such as the Marilyn, the Elvis, the I Love Lucy. We have a unique vintage look. Stop in and say hello. Have a cup of coffee and a delicious cupcake. Even better yet, take a box home to share with the family.
From Chillula, we want to thank our guests, Scott Gregg and Neil Armindgeon. We're going to be here next Wednesday with another group of really cool guests like today. And once again, have a lovely evening, and I'll see you next week.